we are going to get started here. Thanks for joining us for our third Hot August Tuesday. My name is Jim Tunison. I'm the Director of Membership Services here with the AikenChamber. Typically, like Roger and I were talking about earlier, we would go around and introduce ourselves, but if everyone could just give a quick shout out and say hello in the group chat, that would be great, and that's how we'll do that for now. I also want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, Atlantic Broadband Business. Without them, the series would not be possible. So thank you guys. And we have Roger Gibson here to say a few words on behalf of our sponsor.
Thank you, Jim. Atlantic Broadband is, once again, very proud to be part of Hot August Tuesdays to bring this to everybody. I know the first two sessions were great. The third's going to be great as well. But the last one thing I'll leave you with is just put a little spotlight on what we call our 4G LTE backup. That is something that is exclusive to Atlantic Broadband. So the question I will leave everybody with is, how much does a lost call or a lost transaction cost your business? If you do have an answer for that, reach out to me, because our 4G LTE is perfect for those accidents on Whiskey Road that take out a telephone pole, or storms that we experience almost every afternoon down here. So thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Roger. And now I'm going to turn it over to our speaker today, the VP of Sales for Atlantic Broadband, Mr. Juan Dominguez. Juan?
Hey, thanks, Jim. And we've got a couple folks still coming in here, so I'll give a peek to my right occasionally and let them in. But I want to thank David and Jim for hosting and sponsoring us today, Roger for a great introduction. And again, my name is Juan Dominguez. For the next, 30 minutes or so, we will talk about selling during a pandemic. And as I brought up my first slide today, I was like, wow, that sounds kind of serious. So, think about prospecting, business development. How are we going to be successful as people in business during this incredibly challenging time? So what I'd like to do is just keep it really interactive. Feel free to ask a question as we're going through. I'll make sure that I ask questions of the group as we're going through. My goal today is to have you take one or two things away from this call that will make you think differently about business development and prospecting, either during this pandemic or otherwise. So that's the goal, and with that, we'll get started. I'm going to go to slide 2. Jim, just give me a thumbs up if we're good. Still, yep. All right, good. All right. So we'll do some introductions. We'll talk about the State of the Union, what's going on currently in the business world and around the country. We're going to be working on two things today: skill and a great script or conversation will double your chance of getting an appointment and help you to increase sales. And activity, right? We must have a plan. We need to strive towards a certain amount of activity per day. As business people and salespeople, we need to know our numbers in order to be successful, particularly during this time. I'll raise a challenge of don't accept less than 3 no's, even in a very hospitable place like Aiken. We're going to try to be pleasantly persistent, and we'll do some Q&A at the end. So, a little bit about myself. Who's this VP of Sales from Atlantic Broadband? Well, that's me. And you can tell I'm not a young guy from the white shoes on my feet, which no one tortures their children with those anymore, and with the old style cars in the back. There are no Teslas or Mercedes-Benz in that photo. I grew up in a little town called the Bronx, New York, for the first 5 years of my life. You may know that J-Lo, or Jennifer Lopez, also grew up in the Bronx. And all rumors aside, I never dated J-Lo. Just wanted to be clear, no matter what Roger says, don't believe him. And then, I love coaching basketball, both my boys, running, selling, competing, and my favorite band, hands down, is the Beatles. I could talk for hours about the Beatles. My first job out of college, I was an infantryman. So I was a soldier for 5 years in the United States Army. I was a second lieutenant in a infantry unit. And, for lack of a better word, those are the folks that went out there and soldiered on the front line. After sleeping in foxholes and being out in the field for the better part of 50% of those 5 years, I said, maybe I could try something different. And I decided to become a stockbroker. My first job out of the Army, I was a financial consultant, fancy word for a stockbroker, at Merrill Lynch in New York City. And I made over 300 cold calls a day, probably for the first 4 years of my career. So I could tell you some very interesting stories when you make that many calls per day. And then here's my family. That was my COVID beard. And once I realized COVID might go on for a while, I decided to shave. But that was it at its length. I think it was before I interviewed at Atlantic Broadband, Roger. So I figured, virtual interview or not, I should probably look a little more presentable. So here's my family. That's the big guy on the left. That's my 16-year-old, Savan. My wife in the middle, Cheyenne, whose age shall remain unsaid. My little guy, Marcellus, he recently turned 8. And then 2 new additions to the family pre-COVID, Junior on the left, who just turned 1, and Tucker on the left, and Junior on the right, who is still a puppy. So that's the Dominguez team. I live in Severna Park, Maryland, which I was mentioning to David and Jim is a little bit north of Annapolis and a little bit south of Baltimore. So, I think this is a good time to open up the mics and just kind of check in. How are things going, right? What challenges are your businesses facing right now? I just wanted to get a sense of, hey, when we're talking about prospecting and selling, what's one challenge that you might have that we could try to help with today? Don't be shy. You could take your mics off here and we can chat.
Juan, this is David. I think one thing from the chamber standpoint is trying to be polite, trying to understand people's business situation and wondering if it's the right time to make the approach for a new member or for a sponsorship.
That's great. And we could definitely talk about that here a little bit. David, what else?
I think on our end, it's just hearing a lot of financial woes. Mm-hmm. And they want to keep their employees, so they're trying to make ends meet, and a lot of bills coming in, so they're having to make the decision what they need to do. And advertising is usually the first thing that gets cut, but trying to just talk to them and be with them, letting them know we're here.
Yep, that's important, definitely. Mm-hmm. And it's Maddie?
Mady.
Yes. Okay, great. Yep. And Mady, so you're in advertising. What kind of advertising? Web or print?
Both.
Okay, got it. Good. It's a couple of good challenges. What else? Who else has one? I can't see everyone that's on the call, but if you're shy, feel free to put it in chat, but would love to get one more.
Come on. Anyone?
Hi, we're Charlie and Michelle, and we've just had to rethink clients. It's not a traditional. We work with Mady. We're also advertising, so print and digital, and it's not a retail world anymore. It's a more home service world right now, and so we just had to we're thinking outside the box, going after different customers.
Thinking outside the box. That's great. Yep.
The end.
The end. Well, thank you for answering. Roger knows that, I might ask a question, and if no one answers, you'll get some silence for a while. So I appreciate you. I was going to break that rule today to be a respectful host. But so a couple things, right? I would say, David, when is the right time to approach someone? What do you all think? You know, I know I've got a point of view on that, but what do you think? First of all, COVID aside, is there ever, quote unquote, a right time when we're in sales, right? Probably not, right? So I think one of the things we want to keep in mind as we're going through this today is, as salespeople or business development folks or chamber leads, we have a tendency, it's a human nature, to assume. You know, you walk into a place of business, oh, they can afford our C package, but not our A package. Or, hey, you know, I see some of you laughing. Before you make that call, it's like, oof, you know, things must be pretty tough over there. Maybe I won't make that call, right? So, you know, I think part of what we need to do anytime, and especially now, is just put aside those assumptions and put aside putting ourselves in other shoes with respect to their pocketbook. You know, Mady mentioned around financial woes, and couldn't be more true, right? We're not sure necessarily who's suffering more and who's suffering less, and we won't know until we make that call. So we need to be able to pivot really on a dime from our kind of empathetic call, hey, I'm here whenever you're ready, to there are folks that we're calling and they're saying, wow, you know, you couldn't have called at a better time because it's time for me to start, you know, cranking things back up in my business. And then, you know, thinking outside the box and rethinking how we approach the market. I think that COVID accelerated, to your point, the kind of movement towards a different state for some businesses, right? I think it certainly accelerated bankruptcies in retail. It accelerated moves to online. It accelerated technology more in the home and the need for greater bandwidth. So Roger will tell you there's probably never been a greater time for our services, both at home and in a business, right? Because you need to continue to keep that lifeline of the internet and the phones going during these tough times. So those were great suggestions and great participation. Really appreciate that. And I think the way I'm going to leave this part of the show is we don't know when this ends, right? We were talking with David and Jim and Roger before the call about a vaccine or a miracle, right? And I think if you were looking yesterday in the news, University of North Carolina, right, all the kids came back to school and a week later, they're sending them all home. I think you're going to see more and more of that across the country because it's extremely difficult to monitor folks when they're outside of the school environment. Children and young adults are going to do what they do. And so to think this is going to end until there's a vaccine, and who knows when that'll come, how effective it'll be. So we really got to tailor our approach for the long haul. So when you think about one thing you'd like to learn during our time together today, maybe put it in chat and Jim can read off a few. What's one skill that you hope to either improve or learn around our session today? I think that'll be helpful to me as I kind of move through this. I can modify a little bit on the fly. Jim, anything in the chat that we want to share?
We actually have, Sherry also asked the question, how do you show people that marketing in a downturn is more important than when business is at its peak?
So yeah, right. Roger kind of posed a couple of those questions today. If you don't invest in certain things, how can you expect for anything to be different, right? So it's kind of that definition of insanity, right? If you don't market to whatever the audience or potential population of folks that can buy your services or your product, then how do you expect for them to find you, right? So those of us that are still in business or are kind of operating at a reduced capacity, we still need to find ways to take advantage of marketing, advertising, enhanced products, enhanced services in order to reach those customers that are still out there that are willing to buy. So that's a good one. What else?
Nothing showing up in the chat right now.
Okay. Well, hopefully, as we go through this PowerPoint, we'll see some things that will spur some additional thoughts. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm sorry.
And then guys, I will say that if you don't know how to get to the chat, just tap your screen. If you're on an iPad, there are 3 little dots that say more, and then it should give you a drop down menu which says chat, and that's how you'll be able to type in the Zoom chat room.
Jim, I put a question in the chat. Can you not see it?
Oh, that's what I brought up. I just mentioned that to Juan, Sherry, your question.
That was awkward. Junior's barking. I assumed that my wife knew I might be on a call this morning, but should have confirmed. Sorry about that. What was that question, Jim?
I was just letting people know how they can get to the chat.
Okay, cool. All right, great. So let's look at, planning for our day. So for those of us that are in sales or business development, this is an example of a sales cycle. This happens to be the Atlantic Broadband sales cycle that we work on 3 times a week. So it's prepare, open, discover. There's a big section in the middle around collaborating and resolving and further identifying what our customer needs are, and then satisfying those needs, closing, and next steps, right? So really the magic happens in the middle there in that box, but there's certainly important components on the prepare side and next steps that we need to work on as well. So what I wanted to do with respect to this is think about what's in it for me. And when I say me, what's in it for your customers? This is the kind of critical part of sales and business development that sometimes as sales professionals, we forget, which is, hey, we're thinking about all the things we need to do. We don't put ourselves in the customer's shoes or the prospect shoes often enough to say, hey, what's in it for them? So great thing about this is thinking about planning for your day, right? Those of us that wake up in the morning and say, oof, wonder what I'm going to do today are generally less successful than those of us that have a plan. And a plan might be, hey, I'm going to call 20 new prospects today, and I'm going to follow up on my 5 biggest customers, right? And then how do you take that plan and develop it for the week and the month and the quarter and the year? Knowing your numbers is key and fundamental to being a business development or a sales professional, right? How many calls do I need to make to get to X amount of no's? Because I know once I get to 9 no's, my 10th will normally be a yes. And then figuring out on a regular basis how I improve that skill component so I make less calls in order to get the result that I'm looking for. And finally, Roger will say, practice, 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 right? One of the things that I think we tend to ignore as business development professionals is we've got to practice our skills. At Atlantic Broadband, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, everyone on our sales team is on a 30-minute call, and we go through a PowerPoint that teaches a different sales skill in this sales process. We do some role playing. We identify the different steps that will help satisfy customer needs. We work on closing, we work on discovery skills, but at the end of the day, we're working continuously to improve those skills. And we like to say, hey, if we work on our skills a little bit every day, we strive to get 1% better. That is how we get better as sales professionals. Questions on that? I see some head nodding. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, cool. All right. Let's go to scripts. So we're not going to be able to go through A to Z on a script. And some folks might say, oof, I don't really like to sound scripted over the phone. I know a lot of people in the community and, I don't want to sound like rehearsed or anything like that. I get it. What I think I'll go back to is saying that we have to have a plan, right? So even if your script is a quick introduction that sounds a little bit like a wedge statement, that is the thing that we want to do in order to be prepared when someone answers the phone. So when you look at these successful components of a script, it conveys an opportunity, It makes them curious. I'm only going to take a little bit of your time. We want to try to get them to ask a question. It establishes credibility, helps you build rapport, and our goal is to go out and get an appointment. When you look at these, which one kind of jumps out at you as perhaps the most critical? What do you think?
Number 6.
That's what I was
Why?
going to say.
Roger?
That's the whole goal, is to get an
Mhm.
appointment, to get in front of the customer. And out of your list here, 1 to 6, that's 6 is the most important to me.
So our goal of, great job, Roger. Roger can't answer any questions anymore because he goes through these every day. So, but still, gold star, thank you. Getting an appointment, that's the key for the reason that we pick up the phone or do a virtual appointment or whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to move the sale forward. I would say that unless you have a very intimate relationship with the person that you're speaking with, or you have a very easy product or service that you can sell over the phone, you're always trying to get an appointment with a new prospect because it's extremely difficult to transition and make that pivot from, an opening call to a sales call. And so I think Roger hit it on the head there. We're trying to get an appointment. Make them curious. I think in these times in particular, when folks are struggling or times are tough, you really just want to be gracious and ask for a little bit of their time. And asking for 30 seconds up front kind of puts a beginning and an end to this transaction, which any cold call is really a transaction. So when you think about the key points of a script, I want you to remember 3 things. I want you to remember to follow the script, okay? Whatever script you lay out, and we'll give you an example of one here today. Follow the script, be yourself, and follow the script. I always go back to follow the script. When folks make prospecting calls and they're not using some type of outline, you can usually tell. And it leads to questions like, hey, how are things going? Or, is there anything I can help you with? A lot of questions that kind of come to a dead end quickly. You've got to convey value. You've got to make it quick. You've got to stick to your script and you got to stick to your plan. And I think more importantly than all of this is you got to have fun. It's a tough time right now, but we're all in businesses that we want to be in, that we love being in. And I think remember that. It was funny. I was watching a Little League baseball game this morning with my son, and it was an old Little League World Series. And they were talking about a young man, I think he played for Venezuela. He'd been cut the year before, and he was now the best kid on the team a year later. And when the coaches asked, hey, what's the difference between last year and this year? They said, wow, he put a lot of pressure on himself, put a lot of pressure on the outcomes. And this year we convinced him to just have fun. And that was the difference, right? So I think that can be the difference in what we do, which is don't put so much pressure on yourself. It's not the end of the world if this person hangs up on us. Have some fun while you're doing it. And it makes doing that prospecting part of our business, I think, a little bit easier. And sometimes if you're having fun, you can get the prospect to have fun. Okay? All right. So let's talk about a script that we have here. I know that Jim had sent it out ahead of time. I'm kind of scared to take this, to stop sharing this and put the other script on. Does everyone have the script? Just kind of a nod or a show of hands that they can pull up? Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of go through it here. And this is called, if you go to the middle, it's called the no pressure cold call, okay? It's just like we were talking about. We want a cold call that is fun, is easy to do, and is easy to modify for your business. So this is the no pressure cold call, and kind of the source was this was a Sandler training class that I had taken a while back, and a very successful agent that I knew had kind of used this. So I'm not, Roger, do you mind role playing here with me a little bit?
No, sir, go ahead.
Okay, so you're going to be the business owner. So I call Roger, and he picks up the phone. Go ahead, Roger.
Hello.
Hi,
ABC.
Roger, this is Juan Dominguez. I don't suppose my name is familiar to you, is it?
No, I don't believe so.
You know, I'm not surprised, and I'm not certain you're the person I should be speaking with, but thanks for taking my call. I'd like to take 30 seconds, Roger, tell you why I'm calling, and then at the end of that time, you can decide whether we should continue the conversation.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Roger, I help businesses like yours increase sales, usually by 10%. Typically, what I hear from my clients the first time we talk are things like this. I need to get more prospects. When I miss an opportunity to talk to a customer because my phone system cuts out, it costs me $1,000. My internet is not as fast or reliable as it could be. Before I go any further, my 30 seconds are up. Which of these resonate most with you?
I need to get more customers, I
All right,
guess.
so we're going to pause there for a second because I want to break this up into little chunks. Thank you, Roger, for being so gracious and not hanging up on your boss. So a couple things. When I say, I don't suppose my name is familiar to you, right? I'm not Hank Aaron or Wayne Gretzky, right? So Juan Dominguez, what is the reason for that little tactic there? What do you think?
Start the conversation.
Say that a little louder.
Start the conversation.
We'll start the conversation, but it's like a little dipsy-do. It's called a pattern interrupt, right? Person gets the call. It sounds like a salesperson. They want to hang up on me, right? And what I do by saying, I don't suppose my name is familiar to you, is I take their brain off of hanging up and I get their brain into thinking, who the heck is Juan Dominguez? Okay? So it's a little thing to kind of get them off there. I'm going to hang up on Juan here. And then I set up the call with the 30 seconds, just like we talked about. And when I go into my 3 things, what am I trying to get the customer or the prospect to understand? I need to get more clients and customers. When I miss an opportunity to talk to someone because of my phone system, it costs me money. My internet is not as fast as reliable as it could be. What are those 3 things causing the prospect?
It's having them think about their business and talking about it.
Good. It's also getting them to think about what it's costing their business and ultimately pain, right? When I'm having that initial discovery and this person knows nothing about me, I want them to think about, hey, what is challenging in my business right now? It might be, hey, the business across the street is really advertising. They're spending a lot on local television, local print, digital ads. They're outspending me three to none. So, hey, by me not marketing, that's my pain, right? Hey, by me not marketing, that's causing me repeat customers. And it costs me more to acquire a new customer than to have an existing customer come back, okay? So I'm trying to get them to understand a little bit of pain, all right? Now, there's 2 ways that this can go. And the one is the easy way, and that's where Roger invites me in for an appointment. We're going to go to the hard way, where Roger in no way is letting his boss get a meeting on the phone with the AikenChamber today. But that's okay, because I'm going to show you how to respectfully get 3 no's and move on and still feel good about the call. Okay, so Roger, let's go back to the point where you say, I don't have any issues.
Everything that you said, nothing really resonates with me.
Roger, that's really interesting. Can you tell me, how are you bringing in new sales today?
Through the normal way of cold calling.
So if we could help you increase sales by, say, 10% with that normal way by doing a few things different, what would your interest level be?
It would be picked up a little bit.
All right. Well, no, it's not, because you're still telling me no, but that's okay. So I'm going to go. Roger and I didn't practice this before, but he's doing great. So my last thing might be, and my favorite technique as a prospector or a business developer, is I'm going to say to Roger, hey, Roger, if I had a magic wand, what would you change about your technology solutions in your business today? Everyone's laughing. Has Roger used that on him before, on all of you before?
I've used it before.
All right. So, hey, right? What
Yep.
would you change about your solutions today? And then Roger, you'll answer. Still not interested.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested. Magic wands, it's just magic.
Well, you know what, Roger? It sounds like there's no way you would consider doing business with myself at this time, even if I gave it away for free. Do me a favor, keep my name and number. I'd love to hear from you when things change in the future with your current provider. And we'll end the call there, okay? So, I was pleasantly persistent, but did anyone feel that I was ever kind of rude in that transaction? No? Okay. And I got 3 or 4 no's. And I got to tell you, when I walk away from that sales call, I feel pretty good about it, right? As opposed to if I call Roger and I say what it is I do, and he goes, you know what, Juan, I'm just not interested. And you're like, okay, I probably caught you at a bad time, and you go, okay? Because I got to tell you, when we talk to our reps and they're persistent on the phone, sometimes after that first or second no, the person on the other end of the phone starts opening up, right? Everyone's not warm and engaging on that first kind of interaction, but if you stay at it and you're persistent, I think we can win a lot more times than we do today. All right, so when principles around probing, we engage customers or prospects in a conversation. What are some of the things that we want to do in order to get them to open up?
Ask open-ended questions.
And an open-ended question sounds like what?
Well, you've got one on here. Yeah, can you be more specific?
Can you be more specific, right? If I waved a magic wand, that's an open-ended question,
Yep.
right? Good. That's great, Matey. What else are some principles around probing? It was one of the first things on those 3 things that I mentioned. What do we want to try to uncover that the customer or the prospect has?
Needs.
I think I heard it. Pain,
Needs.
right? Pain. Okay, good. And what can we unearth the more we talk with the customer?
Issues.
Issues, and what else? The more questions we ask, needs or opportunities, right? So the more questions we ask, the more needs and opportunities that we can uncover. So once we get them engaged in a conversation, don't be quick to jump off the phone. We see this a lot with business developers. They get the prospect chatting, and all of a sudden they're like, well, you know what? That sounds great. Why don't I send you some information? And they rush to get off the phone, right? They'll let you know when it's time to get off the phone. Keep getting as much information on that introductory call that you can. That's great. So I'm going to put the principles around probing right there, and you nailed them all. And here we have unearthed unexpected customer needs specific to their vertical across all RGUs. We sell a handful of products on the business side. And when someone focuses in on slow internet, we just don't want to give them an internet solution. We want to find out how much, what other challenges they have in their business, because what we've found is the more valuable we can be to the customer with powerful business solutions, the less apt they are to leave us when their contract ends. We become more of a partner and less of a commodity. So that's what we're trying to achieve around discovering as much as we can to provide as much value as we can. All right, we're going to go shift gears here a little bit. Any questions on what we have so far? Because I'm going to go to voicemail and email, and then we're going to open it up and take some questions to see what other things you want to know around what we've talked about today. Questions on the phone piece. I left a lot of information on there. So when you think about voicemails and emails, think about having a progression, right? If your email follow-up is constantly, hey, did you get that proposal? What did you think of the proposal? Are you going to sign the proposal? When are you going to send the proposal? Right? Remember, put yourself on that other end. There are different ways to send different emails and voicemails that can lead you to where you want to go. Now, I've got the breakup email and the breakup voicemail. Let me see if I can bring that up and chat about it. Let's see here. So, why do you think a voicemail or an email that checks in on how someone is doing, why do you think that would be effective?
They could read it at their convenience.
Say that again?
Because they could read it at their convenience.
They can read it at their convenience, yep. Let me show you the two things that we want to talk about here. You know, if I stop sharing, Jim, is there any way you could bring that breakup email up? Because I'm a little concerned about my, let's see, hold on. Let me try one more time. Let's see here. Share screen. I might be able to get it. Hold on. Okay, no pressure, cold call. I don't want that. I want this. Okay, let's try this. All right, I'm back in. You know what? I can't seem to put that up, Jim. Is there any way you can put that up for me?
Let me check. You'd have to make me the host again. Let me try and find that.
You know what? It's okay. I'm going to just read from it, team. And if, as long as you can hear me, that's okay. So let me read this to you. It's going to be in the packet that Jim has sent out. So this was an actual exchange with a prospect. And we had gone back and forth. We had actually met with them twice, and then they had gone silent. And I think a lot of us get that in our business, right? It's called ghosting. I see Mady kind of making that look, right? So you can use this as an email, or you can use this as a voicemail. So, Thomas, hope you are well and that everything is okay. Sometimes we all forget that things that come up that are much more important than business. So wanted to make sure first and foremost that, again, everything is good in your world. And then I transitioned. Assuming that it is, I wanted to make sure you were still interested in our redundant circuit proposal. Reaching out since Judith and Mike had not heard back from you on the proposal they sent a few weeks back. If you're no longer interested, that's completely okay. The last thing we want to do is continue hitting you with emails if you aren't really interested. Please let me know either way when you have a minute. What do you like about that email?
Well, it's reminding them what you proposed to them in the first place.
Yes.
You did ask about how they were doing, making sure they weren't sick. There would be a reason for them not to answer the email if they weren't available to do that.
That's great, Mady. That's awesome. So let me ask it another way. If you were that prospect, what would you be thinking if I sent you that email?
Guilty.
You'd feel guilty, right?
Yep.
How quickly do you think you would respond to that email?
Probably right then. Let them know either way.
I have to tell you, I have used that email to remarkable effect. The person on the other end thinks, oh my God, Juan thinks that I was kidnapped by aliens. Let me send him an email right away, or let me return his, and it doesn't mean that it's going to lead to a sale, but I'll tell you, it's a very effective way to resurrect what I would call someone that's ghosting. Okay. All right, good. So let's go to the second part of that. All right. This is, hey, you know what? They haven't responded to that. So I sent this one on April 13th, 2016. And then a few weeks later, I sent this one. Hi, Thomas. We've reached out several times and it appears that there is no interest at this time in moving forward. That's completely fine, right? So I want to take the pressure off them. You know, no harm, no foul. What we want to avoid is continuing to hit you with calls and emails if you're not ready. If you'd like to upgrade your offerings in the future, please let Mike or myself know. We'd love to work with you. Sincerely, Juan Dominguez. Who out there has been broken up with at some point in their life? I'm gonna raise my hand. I would say more often than not, I'm the recipient of the breakup. That being said, no one likes to get broken up with, right? And that is the beauty of what I call this breakup email, right? It's kind of like, hey, you know what? Sounds like you're not interested. I'm just going to go on my merry way. Very few people like to be, it's not dismissive. It's very professional. It says, when you're ready, give me a call. But it's, again, it's one last final chance to resurrect the opportunity. So I think these emails and these voicemails in combination are extremely powerful in changing the approach from follow-up on a proposal or an initial meeting or trying to get a meeting, and more a way to spur that next action. And if you go all the way back to that sales steps in the sales step process, it's a great way to advance that sale to the next step. I'm going to pause there and see what questions you have.
Well, I've got two comments, really.
Yep.
On the voicemail, one thing that has been successful with me in the past is actually when I leave the voicemail, I'll say, why don't you call me back after 5, leave me a voicemail, let me know either way, it's fine. And it takes the pressure off and it lets them know that they're not going to get, they're not going to break up with me in person. So that's good. The second thing is in terms of the breakup email, we actually have an account executive at Atlantic Broadband who sent out 11 breakup emails this past Friday. They've actually, out of the 11, 5 signed agreements with us. So that's what, 45% turnaround rate. And so that's just evidence that, that was 5 we didn't have, 5 days ago. So.
That's great. And, I would challenge everyone to go kind of into their prospecting funnel and see, hey, who are the people that I haven't talked to in a while? And, send one of those 2 out and just give it, it's one of those, you don't have anything to lose. Give it a try and see if they work. Roger, thanks for bringing that up. I think when we do these little tips and tricks in our huddle sessions and folks go out and try them, they come back the next day and they're like, wow, that really worked. Or I'll get emails to say, that worked. So before I take questions, I wanted to see, was I able to get my PowerPoint back up on the screen? Good. Okay. So today's wrap up, and thank you for the person that said you don't have to be the host to share. I appreciate that. Here's what I would ask you to do is take 1 or 2 things that we worked on today, especially on the phone scripting, and commit to getting at least 3 no's. We had this thing back in the day when we did a lot of door knocking that, hey, I know that I need to get 10 no's to get to that first yes. If my typical sale is $200, every no that I get is paying me $20. So it's kind of a way to get paid back, if you will, even on that kind of prospecting that can sometimes be, very laborious and kind of you dread doing it, but each no gets you 1 step closer to that yes. So I think if we can get 3 no's on a call, that makes us feel, really good about making the next call. I would urge everyone to practice your sales or your business development craft on a regular basis. With YouTube and some of these other things available today, you don't have to pay money to get incredibly good sales practice or advice. And that's a good way to hone your skills on a regular basis. And then say, practice on your dog, practice on your cat, practice on your kids, practice with I call it a battle buddy, right? Someone on your team that you can say, hey, I'm going into this big appointment, this big closing appointment. I have a feeling I'm going to get challenged on this piece. Can you be the customer and when I get to this piece, say something like this, and you could actually work through it like Roger and I did. That's a very effective, low to no cost way of getting a little bit better every day. So I wanted to thank you for your time and participation today. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you got one or two things out of our little session that can help you to prospect and sell better during a pandemic. I'm going to open it up for questions now, Jim, if that's good.
Awesome. Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much, Juan. And I have my eyes on the chat, so if anyone wants to type in a question or just unmute themselves and ask away.
I will say one last thing. The example that I used, everybody knows who it is. It's Diane's daughter, Emily. She was the success story that I had mentioned. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Everybody knows Emily.
Yep. Yeah, the breakup email is something that I've known about but forgotten. So thank you for bringing that back up.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So I think that'll be something that will help me, and I know my team, go forward instead of just feeling like we're just every day having to do the same thing. It's like, let's challenge them. So
yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I think there's some emails there and some progressions that if you kind of change up your follow-up approach, again, we couldn't get into all of them. Hey, I left voicemail 1 today, and then whatever your regular follow-up, 2 days, 3 days from now, a week from now, I left email 2 or voicemail 2. It's just a different way to kind of get to not sound the same on every call, because a lot of us as sales professionals sound the same way.
Hey,
What else,
Juan.
team? Yes.
This is Sherry Seiler with the AikenChamber. Are you
Hey,
a
Sherry.
chamber? Are you a chamber member?
Am I a chamber member? I haven't joined a chamber since I moved from Georgia a year and a half ago. But I was on the Cobb Chamber for many years in Georgia.
Okay, so tell me what you think the chamber does for you.
Well, great question. First of all, it provides a forum like this, right? Where a networking forum virtually, which I think a lot of business development professionals haven't figured out, hey, how do I get out there and talk to people, either potential business or peers, to kind of share my challenges, to get a different perspective on how to do things. I think that number one to me was always critical. I always had fun at chamber events, and we took advantage at the Cobb Chamber of something. It was kind of called like the President's Club. So it was the meeting before the meeting, and we always found that that's where you'd get 50 or 100 business owners in the room before we'd go to the 500 or 600 general meeting assembly. And although you had to pay a kind of different membership structure for that, we always found that it was a great investment for our company to be part of the chamber in that way.
Okay, so since COVID has happened, obviously we're not able to meet like that with all these people and meet face to face and share business cards and share ideas.
Yep.
So how do you think it's changed and how the chamber still can add value to your business?
So that's an interesting question. I have not met Roger yet face to face, right? So I interviewed with the company virtually. I have only met a handful of folks from my boss's senior leadership group. I haven't been out to our 11 different systems yet. I have to tell you, I feel like I've met a lot of people using this virtual environment. So I think a selling point for the chamber right now might be, you go to a meeting and you meet 2 or 3, or if you're really good at networking, 10 people, you could meet hundreds of members, or maybe even all the members in this environment right now with quick meet and greets on Zoom or whatever your video platform is, right? So how cool would it be when you do go to your next chamber meeting live that you've already met, how many members do you have, Sherry?
I defer that to Diane. I don't actually know that number, but it's around 1,000.
Ballpark, right around 1,000. How cool would it be if you've met 200 or 300 members just on little introductory calls, 5 minutes of a coffee meeting, so to speak. Hey, tell me a little bit about what you do. I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. It could even be a non-threatening call. Hey, just want to have a call with you to get to know each other and see how we might be able to help each other in the future, right? And no commitments. And gosh, if you had 2 of those a day, you'd meet 60 chamber members or 40 chamber members. And over the course of the next 3 or 4 months, you could meet a couple hundred. I think, I don't know, I'm just talking out loud, but I think that would be a great opportunity to help people see the value until your next face-to-face meeting.
Thank you.
If that works, my commission is very small, so. What else?
That's funny.
I think we've got time for one more question, and then we'll turn it back over to Jim and team.
So Juan, this is David again.
Yes, David?
I was thinking, what is the difference in selling in an urban market where lots of people don't know each other and selling in a smaller market where there's an assumption that everybody does know each other? Is there a difference in that sale?
There is, and I would say the difference maker is us, right? I will tell you a little story, and hopefully this answers the question, David. I was prospecting in a suburb of Chicago, but certainly not the city of, but a suburb of Chicago, and folks don't know each other like they do in Aiken, right? And the sales rep's name was Tony, and it was Comcast Business, and we're going door to door. And I got to tell you that within 30 seconds, you felt like you've known Tony all your life. And he was just that type of person. Now, it's, who knows how it'll be post-COVID, but he's shaking your hand. He's looking you in the eye. He's making you feel comfortable. He's patting you on the back. He's asking you about your family. He's asking how you got started in the business. So it's like, before you know it, you're engaged in a conversation with Tony, and you feel like you've known him, certainly more than most sales reps. So I would say that regardless of the environment, if you can open yourself up and be vulnerable and not feel like, oh, this person's going to say no, so I'm going to be on my guard. And again, go back to having fun. I think you can win regardless of the urban or suburban or rural kind of situation. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you.
You
This has
bet.
been a very good presentation, Juan. We do appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all this morning. And again, hopefully we gave you a little bit of value, something to think about when you go out and start your calling and your videos today. Thank you, Roger, for the introduction. And thank you, David and Jim, for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Look forward to meeting some of you here in, let's call it, the near future. We'll be positive.